Hey guys, did you hear?
He's finally doing it!
Rowdy finally reviewing My Little Pony?
Yes! It's about time!
We're definitely all tuning into this one, right?
This is gonna be the biggest brony party ever!
Come to where the magic is, where the rainbow ends. Follow, follow my little pony and friends. Through the clouds and past the stars, where the river bends. Follow, follow my little pony.
Oh, I'm sorry! Were you expecting something else? Welcome to the 250th episode of TV Trash! Gotcha! Because here's where I get to finally take advantage of being the old guy on the web. To steal a line from the great Piper himself, I was Brownie before Brownie was cool! Yes, ladies and germs, I am old enough to have seen the original Generation 1 My Little Pony cartoons from the glorious 1980s. Although, to be fair, it can sometimes be difficult to understand just where the first generation starts and stops due to it having multiple series that even I had to step back and research. The first animated production was the direct-to-home video special since known as Escape from Midnight Castle, which stars the original ponies that debuted around 1983-84 and are probably now right there with the first Beanie Babies that you could retire by selling just one on eBay. I joke, but the original special could actually be pretty dark for its supposed demographic, as Cartoon Hero showed in his own review of it. The next special was called Escape from Katrina, which, even though it's spelled with a C, could probably still produce some uncomfortable feelings nowadays. I'm guessing this one featured the Year 3 ponies from 1984-85, since I had actually never heard of this special until recently, and still have not really watched it. At any rate, this all led up to the 1986 full-length theatrically released film, which apparently starred the Year 4 ponies and is the one that the cinema snob of all people recently reviewed. The movie was the launching pad for what is actually the subject of our review, an animated TV series that debuted in syndication in the fall of 1986 and primarily aired on weekday mornings, at least in my part of the country. And so, for the 250th episode of TV Trash, it's time for all of you youngins to sit under the apple tree and listen to Grandpa Rowdy talk about My Little Pony and Friends.
My little pony, where will today's adventure
The series began with, believe it or not, a 10-part story long enough to cover another feature-length film that aired over the course of 2 weeks. The end of Flutter Valley essentially picked up where the movie left off, bringing back the Flutter Ponies who'd ended up saving the day and fighting back the schmooze at the end of the film. No, I didn't post a spoiler warning. Get over it that I gave away the ending to a kid's film more than 30 years old. At any rate, the witches from the movie are back and out for revenge against the Flutter Ponies by stealing the Sunstone that essentially uses the power of the sun to give their home of Flutter Valley all of its energy. Yep, in this show, solar energy is considered a thing of fantasy. Did these show writers come from Oklahoma? Despite some choppy cutscenes in a number of areas, though I suspect the copy I watched for this was edited for DVD space or something, and several corny over-the-top songs, one for each of the 10 episodes, the story is actually pretty similar to what was common for the series at the time. It involves the ponies teaming up with new allies like the Furbobs and the Stonebacks, and using the power of friendship to defeat the witches and their allies, an army of killer bees that want the Sunstone to bring light to the land they were exiled to, along with some messages about how certain people can change or might not be what you think at first glance. You know, standard saccharine sweetness of the 80s.
From the sun comes hope, from the sun comes laughter. Here's to the sun up above, from the sun, from the sun, from the sun comes love.
Yeah, I hope this wasn't too diabetes-inducing for you. Hopefully most of you have processed all the Halloween candy you've eaten by now. Believe it or not, most of the stories in this series were similar to this. They didn't go 10 episodes, but many of them for at least the first season went up to 4 of the 5 episodes that would be covered in a single week. And quite a few of them did bring back supporting characters from the previous movies, like the Grundles and the Sea Ponies, though sadly we never again got the full version of that earwormy theme song. Although it looks like after the Flutter Valley story, Megan and her siblings Danny and Molly just took up shop in Paradise Estate, at least for much of the first season. Did they even leave a note for their parents that they were going away for a while? Dear Mommy and Daddy, we've decided to spend summer vacation with our talking pony friends in their magical land on the other side of the rainbow. My poor insane daughter. Another criticism I definitely will give this series is the ponies' designs. Given that they are all pretty much drawn the same and have very similar light diluted pastel colors, it is often very difficult to tell one apart from the other, especially since very often they have similar voices as well.
Try again, Shady. And this time the rest of you follow after her.
I can't fly like a Pegasus. I don't have any magical powers like Gusty and Galaxy. And I can't even make it through a simple jumping drill like any self-respecting Earth pony.
If I said it once, I said it 1,000.
It doesn't help that it can be sometimes difficult to tell the ponies' personalities apart as well. The only one I could really identify as having a consistent personality was the Pegasus heartthrob, who was a hopeless romantic. That's where I will give Friendship is Magic a lot of credit in making sure each one of the main cast ponies had a very distinct look in addition to personality, making each one easy to tell apart from the other. Not to mention how they handle the baby ponies compared to the older series. While FIM's Cutie Mark Crusaders are established as the younger sisters of the main ponies, at least according to the wikis I was able to read, in the 80s series, the likes of Baby Buttons, Gusty, Ribbits, and Heartthrob are the actual children of the main ponies, even though there are no male ponies in the main herd. Yeah, I will definitely give Lauren Faust credit for thinking things through and not making conversations between mother and daughter regarding this show awkward. As for the stories themselves, I'm sure you expect those kind of saccharine tales that bronies today would ridicule. Like when the ponies have to stop an evil squid monster that wants to flood the entire valley and kill all land creatures so he can rule the world again.
Here goes. The tide has turned, Ghost.
Or a zebra rock star who steals people's souls.
Onward, flutter ponies, victory is sweet.
A pig witch who makes a magic cape out of the pony's hair to turn their world completely into glass. How did we get through the 80s without being mentally traumatized again? Oh yeah, we didn't. That being said, it's not like there weren't messages about learning to trust people and trying to make friends and believing in yourself. On one hand, I could say this was still the 80s and it would be a couple more years before we got more cynical cartoon heroes like Garfield and the Animaniacs. But on the other hand, isn't that pretty much what Friendship is Magic does as well? I mean, wasn't the pilot episode of that show about Twilight Sparkle needing to rely on other people and make friends in order to ultimately defeat the Dark Ponies? So yeah, despite simpler animation and maybe not as much work put into differentiating the characters, you can see just how the 1980s My Little Pony did indeed influence Lauren Faust's creations more than 2 decades later. It may come off as incredibly saccharine at times, but if you look close enough, there are plenty of similarities where you can see it did set the groundwork for other series to come. Which is more than I can say for the other cartoons that were included here.
My little pony, I'll be there right by your side. I'll be there right by your side.
See, Hasbro looked at this series as a way to show not just the ponies, but other toy lines as well, which is why every day the MLP episode was then followed by an episode from one of 3 other animated series created for this show. And what did those cartoons entail? Well...
Go potatoes, everyone. Potato Head Kids, having so much fun.
Yeah, this is probably the cartoon that if you were a boy, you used as an excuse to watch this show at all. The Potato Head Kids was an offshoot of the legendary Mr. Potato Head doll that produced a series of about 8 to 10 smaller toy characters with interchangeable hats and shoes. Hasbro was actually so committed to this toy line, they offered them in McDonald's Happy Meals. And not just miniature copies or anything. You actually got the same toy you could have bought in the toy stores. Just in case you wanted to be more disappointed in what little the Golden Arches gives out today. The cartoon itself naturally focused on the adventures of the Spudlings, who as far as I can tell, were not the direct kids of Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, who do frequently appear in the cartoons, and we probably shouldn't delve further into that anyway. The internet is already ruining people's childhood in regards to Goofy having a son. While the MLP cartoons were more based in fantasy, the Potato Head Kids cartoons had more of an afternoon family sitcom style. Though yes, it does take place in a world where these mutant potatoes exist with humans, and no one seems to have a problem with it. Why wasn't humanity this accepting of the Ninja Turtles again? For what it's worth, the kids' personality traits are much more defined here. Big Chip is the unofficial leader, character. Spud is the one always looking for action. Tulip is the shy one. Smarty Pants is the smart one. They're all pretty cliched, especially now, but it's clear the objective of having all these different personalities work and be friends together was in place. They find themselves going on adventures like searching for pirate treasure or leprechaun gold, or getting on their favorite TV show, or getting caught in a real-life Robin Hood story. Come on, like you never had to rescue your girlfriend from a school bully right after getting off of school? Yeah, often at times they would find themselves at odds with this gang of bullies led by Grease. Because back then, every gang of thugs was mentally stuck in the 1950s. And they say us internet dorks are too addicted to nostalgia. This is the cartoon that seems to have gotten among the most flack among the four that aired on the show. Perhaps because of the ludicrous concept of talking potatoes, and how much more basic a lot of the stories were. Though remind me again how many kids' cartoons got the main characters involved in a surfing competition? Still, I will give credit that they tried to be different than My Little Pony, as if to give some level of balance. And I will say they still put a little more effort in than some other things. For that, we need to go to the other cartoons, like... The next series was The Glow Friends, which, much like Potato Head Kids, was based on a set of smaller characters making up an offshoot of the Glowworm character toy, whose selling trait was that they glowed in the dark. Yeah, I'm not sure I could think of a more simple, ridiculous toy premise to try and make a TV show after. Yeah, we're gonna get there one day. This is one that I actually didn't know much about because I somehow missed most of the shows that had their episodes, even though they had the most number of episodes of the other three cartoons. Basically, it's about these bug creatures called glow friends who live in the forest and rely on moon drops that fall from the sky for their energy, and they are being hunted down by these creatures called the Mulligans, who were banished from their kingdom and are now looking for enough gold to buy up their kingdom and want to use the glow friends as lights to help them see in the gold mines, and someone actually got paid to put that much thought into making a cartoon based on a series of glow-in-the-dark figurines. Never let anybody say your dreams are worthless, kids. And that's pretty much it. It actually starts with its own 10-part story about how the Glow Friends Moondrop Pond springs a leak and drains, so they have to go on a quest to find the legendary Moondrop Lake. And that's where they first run into the Mulligans, as well as this gang of birds that were working with an ant kingdom to mine the gold. But then the birds turn on the ants and want the gold for themselves. Why do the birds want the gold? I mean, the Mulligans are made to be completely anthropomorphic, so it makes some sense, but the birds are not. Did anyone proofread this thing? Was this cartoon a rush order they had to get out before Christmas? The whole thing kinda resembles Disney's The Gummy Bears, without the entertaining characters, or villains, or just about any of the effort put in whatsoever. I'm not really sure what they meant this one to be. The remaining episodes are mostly stories like Baby Glowworm and Bashful Bug running away from home, and the Mulligans agreeing to a newspaper interview. Those stories got approved for a cartoon, and I still can't get anyone to buy my books. Now I'm depressed. This cartoon does look like it was just thrown together in order to fill out the number of episodes needed, and there's probably a reason it isn't really remembered at all. I'd like to say Glow Friends had the absolute least amount of effort put in among all of these. I'd like to say that, but unfortunately we still have...
You're not dreaming, it's the Moon Dreamers.
Dreaming up dreams for me and you.
The final cartoon was Moon Dreamers, a series that probably made you want to go right back to bed if you watched this thing in the mornings like I used to. It's about these magical kids that live in another world above ours whose job it is to create dreams that make kids happy. It's not at all similar to anything else we've touched on before.
First we have to gather the stuff that dreams are made of. We collect what dreams are made of from the outside galaxy. Next we have to mix up the stuff that dreams are made of. Dream Gazer stirs them in a secret recipe. And Dream Gazer's potion is called Imagination Combination. Then Whimsy pours it all in this machine, and out comes a crystal glowing bright. Then it's taken on board to a newly minted store, courtesy of our very own comet rider, Bucky Buckaroo.
But looking to turn those dreams into nightmares is Scowleen, an evil witch who hates everything because she can't sleep. Make me stay up all night watching something like Brickleberry and I'd be pretty cranky myself. And in the middle of it all are these two wannabe moon dreamers called Blinky and Bitsy, as well as their animal friends Ursa Major and Rory, and they all live in this land that I think Nintendo eventually bought up and turned into Rainbow Road. Also, Scowleen has a daughter named Scowlette, who is always trying to stop the moon dreamers herself to try and impress Mommy Dearest. And again, no father is ever mentioned in this show. Jeez, and people complain about the Disney princesses only having one parent. While Glow Friends was the cartoon I seem to have involuntarily missed the most, this is the one show I intentionally skipped over the most. And it looks like I didn't miss much.
We have to turn the positron power up to stop the Scowly dream. Bitsy, push! Wow, what a dream!
Wishes to come true. They do, they do, they do. Well, not every wish, of course, but quite a few. Wishes to come true, like bolts out of the blue. Then they strike with lightning force. The moment you least suspect, your dreams will be granted.
Thanks, Jeannie. This probably had the most wasted potential of all of these shows, particularly when it comes to the villain. Scowleen is said in the first episode to be filled with hatred for good dreams because she herself can't sleep. But it's never explained why she can't. That's pretty much the perfect setup for a sympathetic villain storyline that could end with her finding redemption and ultimately befriending the Moon Dreamers. You know, like many of the villains in the MLP cartoons did. But they don't do anything with that premise here. It's just 16 episodes of trite stories that really look like clones of many of the other cartoons, featuring characters that are just that combination of cutesy and blah to make you change the channel.
Suffering stars, Bucky! The North Star blew up! And all the positron power leaked out! We have no stars to light the way!
That's probably why IO9 put it in its 2014 list of cartoons that didn't deserve remembrance, describing it as a cartoon about coolness and friendship created by a marketing committee of old white men who had never experienced either of them before. Ouch!
You're not dreaming, it's the Moon Dreamers. Moon Dreamers, make your dreams take flight.
Ultimately, stuff like Moon Dreamers and Glow Friends, and yes, maybe even Potato Head Kids, is probably why 80s cartoons are looked down upon with such disdain nowadays by people who didn't grow up watching them. But from someone who did, what is my final analysis on My Little Pony and Friends? It's definitely a case of the growing pains animated television went through in the 1980s, with creators trying to find a way to make deeper stories while dealing with much of the industry being controlled by merchandising at the time. The other three cartoons definitely were cases of writers being handed a bunch of toy creations designed by focus groups and told to do something with this. I'd say those writers tried their best, but just weren't given very much to work with. Which is kind of sad knowing what else came out in the 80s and developed a much greater following because those creators were able to do more. As for the My Little Pony cartoons, it certainly can feel like a watered-down version of what you saw in the feature-length productions that preceded it, to say nothing of what has come out in more recent years. But upon deeper inspection, the seeds planted in the 1980s took root and helped lead to the more acclaimed series of the present day. And perhaps it does deserve a closer look from today's devoted fan base to see where it all began. If you check out the cartoons for yourself, you'll surely hear and recognize a lot of familiar voice actors. And maybe you'll see for yourself the similarities between the present and the past, and how friendship was still magic even all those years ago. My Little Pony and Friends. So yeah, My Little Pony and Friends might not have been perfect, but the likes of Friendship is Magic wouldn't have existed without it. So perhaps there is a place for it to be revered even from the fans of the franchise today. Right, guys?
Yeah, we kinda tuned out after the intro.
So, did you guys hear any word about the next Equestria Girls movie?
The thanks I get for trying to teach history. What have I been doing this for 250 episodes for?